Hey, thought we'd take a little bit of time here just to answer a few questions that we got back from the survey that we sent out. And always appreciate your feedback. It just helps us so much and helps me to be able to know how I can best, take you on that path to having more fun drawing and just having a more accurate drawing. Sometimes things aren't so easy to illustrate on camera, but I'm glad I have this so that I can at least kind of explain a few things. Jeremy has a question he's picked out that he'll go ahead and tell you about right now.
Hey, Darrell, thanks. It's great to be talking with you again. And I want to say a very special thank you to all of you for joining us in this special presentation. As you heard, we're going to be talking about hands today. And more specifically, we're going to talk about drawing realistic hands that help us to better tell the story we want to tell in our drawings. So Darrell's going to share some of the secrets he's picked up on getting the proportion right and the shape and the perspective of the hands correct, so we're not setting off red flags in the minds of our viewers when they look at the work. And so we're going to jump right into that. But first, I just want to take 1 second to say thank you so much to all of you who took our survey. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to kind of drop us a line and let us know how we can better serve you. So again, thank you so much. Okay, I'll stop blabbing and we'll jump right to it. Darrell, drawing hands is a complex undertaking. We've got the palm, the fingers, the nails, hairs, and even things that someone might be holding. So my question for you is, and actually a lot of people's question for you is, how do we keep all of those elements in check? How do we keep the proportion right and the shape and the perspective correct so that we're not drawing hands that are comically oversized, undersized, or lopsided, or just not conveying the message we want to convey? I heard from quite a few of you that said, your hands came out looking like a caricature or some kind of a cartoon. So Darrell, what are your suggestions for getting the proportion and the perspective right?
Well, there's so many things that go into coming up with a hand that looks believable. There's a lot of reasons why things can look cartoonish, and many of those things I cover in the 5-pencil method, even the first 5 free lessons. It kind of helps you know the difference between just drawing a line and dedicating it. What I call dedicating it anyway is coming up with edges to values so that you know what is shading what. It has a lot to do with light direction, the positioning of the hand, and we have to understand that we're not only, we are drawing on a flat piece of paper, but our subjects aren't always flat. We want to be able to add contour and dimension to all those things. So the powers of observation is something that I always love to try to help you with, because in the long run, it's going to help you notice the little things that are so important in not only the makeup of a face, but in creating that rounded dimension of a head. Now, hands are surprisingly very, very similar, except that we see all these fingers and they're different angles, and there's so many different aspects of a hand, the knuckles, the wrists, where is it bending, and what angle are we looking at. And let me just show you some of those things I got a piece of paper here. Let's just say, we're not always going to be fortunate enough to just draw hands just straight on like this. I think I better get this a little farther out. And it may not be too interesting anyway, but anyway, here we have it. We could have our palms straight up, or we could have our palms down. But it's not very often that we're going to be having our hands on a table, let's say, and drawing it straight forward. But even at that, you'll notice that there's a certain amount of tension when I relax my hands that I'd have to force them to be straight down. But as I relax my hands, there's an angle being created. It's a little higher between the tabletop and my hand than it is here. There's almost no distance here as it's touching. And so the mere fact that I'm raising this up starts showing us some really good things to think about. As I do fingernails, am I going to want them to just look like a fingernail on the end of a finger the way I think it should? Or am I going to closely observe and realize, This is, we have quite a bit of the finger right over here showing, but now we watch this curve go around and it's actually not showing any of this side of the finger on that side. And yet we need to have these indicators to show that we have a perspective, we have a certain angle. So some of these things are our secrets right there. And as we are incorporating maybe the hands onto something, maybe we're holding something or whatever, we realize that the hands are conforming to whatever shape they're occupied with, they're involved with. And there are always things, this is one of the things that I want to really encourage anybody, if I have a chance to do more than we have just for this little answer to the question, I like to try to help you understand that there's always something to compare something to. The fact that this hand might be a little higher than this one is something to look at, so that I don't end up by drawing it perfectly level. The fact that this thumb is a little higher than this one is something to take into consideration. But some of the very important things are angles. And if I expect my hand to look like this and I drew an angle like that, well, obviously that's going to be wrong. So I want to make sure that I'm noticing that these are all fanning out. They're all coming in a almost like the spokes of a wheel. There's a hub back here, and so all these things are fanning out. If I don't notice that, then I'm not going to see the narrow space here and the wider space up here. I'm not going to be able to see that there's a finger that is longer than this one. And so angles really help us a lot, because we have a chance now to say, oh yeah, if I put a straight edge next to that, I think that I could duplicate that angle. It'll at least give me a little bit of an idea of where the basic shape is. If I was just doing this without trying to just trace around my hand, I would still be able to notice these same shapes in real life. And so I could start narrowing it down and saying, okay, this is the width of a finger or whatever, but at least I have this outside shape. Now, that may not be such a great example, but I want to know what else can I compare my hands to. So if I have a face, let's say, I want to know if there's any similarity between the distance from her finger and her hand on any other part of her face. So let's just go ahead and see the dividers. If you don't have one of these, it's just wonderful. You want to make sure you file down the tips, because you'll end up by poking holes in your paper, or your photographs. But wow, if I can come up here now and I take this comparison, and then I say, oh, what is similar? What could I find that's almost the same? Oh man, that's almost equal to right up to her hairline. Well, now I have an idea from her wrist or her sleeve here up to the top of the hand. Now I know that I can use that same measurement and come up here and become pretty close to seeing how high her face is, from just above her mouth to her hairline. That's wonderful information. And so I could go ahead and I could come in here and I could say, okay, well, how wide is this? Is there anything else that I can try to benefit from that? It looks like from the top of her eye down to the middle of her mouth, whatever. I know that I'm not actually going to use those things, but there's always something to compare something to. And then if you imagine, if you can't create it yourself, if you imagine an angle, I always like to look at the angles. And if I need to know if that cheek is coming in towards the hand, I can put my straight edge there and at least visualize it, if not use it, with the straight edge and divider method, which I've demonstrated many, many times. There's a wonderful drawing or a subject here. Here is something that's very interesting. If I'm going to draw this the same size, then fine. I still need my angles. I still want to be able to find the distance between here and all these different things. But if I wanted to just say, maybe let's just look at a little bit of freehanding, and I'm saying, okay, where do I want it on my paper? So now I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say this is where I'm going to start. And wow, what kind of shape could I duplicate on here? Oh, look at this. Now this is unusual, but still, there's usually something on your drawing that you can benefit from when you can see different shapes developing. And so I can say, okay, I think I could kind of draw that shape a little bit. Here's halfway here, and it's a little bit taller than it is, to the bottom here, and that kind of a diamond, I don't know what you want to call it, a diamond shape. But then if I'm saying, well, but I want to draw it half again as big. So I would just say, okay, now let's go ahead and do this, and let's come up to where her fingers are coming together. Well, no, let's just go back down here again. Let's do that. And now let's say, okay, but I want it that much bigger. Now all I need to do is I need to go ahead and establish that distance. And because we're working with angles, angles are always true. We have to look at the characteristic of the angle, but still now I know that from this dot to this dot, I have an opportunity now to create this shape. Same angle, it's just going to put us on a different place on the paper. Because I can come in here, as long as I have this in the same orientation, I can come in here pretty easily and at least get a start. And if you draw with the 5-pencil method, one of the main things that I want to encourage everybody to do is give yourself a break and make it so you can make changes. Who in the world ever can put anything down the first time and have it be totally accurate? But the straight edge and divider helps me to be able to have some great accuracy. I can come down to almost an exact, replication of a form of a face or hands or maybe both together, and have it all proportional and everything else with the straight edge and divider method. But let's come down here a little bit more here. Now, there's a little bit of a bend here. I could start coming up with a few of these things. But now, here's that center place right here. Here's the center. It isn't the center, but where they make the major bend in the hand. And let's see, where does the nose go? Oh, the nose is just a little bit above that. And we can look at the angle so we don't end way up here, but we can come in here and create the nose. And if I wanted to just start getting an idea where the fingers are, I'm going to, the more I draw, the more I'm going to have an opportunity to find out if I have the right length, the more I develop in my face or whatever I'm building on. I can go ahead and say, okay, here is here's about halfway between the nose and there. Okay, so here's halfway. Let's go ahead and and look for the curves. Let's go ahead and make our division between the two lips there. And then we can look and see, okay, is this going back down? Oh, it is. It's going up and down. Here's our Cupid's bow. About where is it in line? Well, the nose is a little bit over to the left of that, and this is pretty much in the center. So let's go ahead and do that. And then, oh, it looks like this is about halfway between that and that. So let's go about halfway. And now suddenly we have a mouth starting to appear. And if we dedicate it, we even have more advantage. We can go a clean edge to value and we can dedicate it. So we know what's covering what. Usually the top lip is covering ever so slightly the bottom one. Sometimes it doesn't appear like that. But here is a nose out in front of the face. I'm just saying, I'm jumping to the chase here, but I'm just saying that there are so many things that are incorporated into showing something realistic. This is the same thing you want to do with hands. With hands, we have so many different angles. And if we can show what's in front and what's behind, we're way ahead of the game. Because if I'm going to use the same method of dedicating an edge and making sure I know which side is being shaded, right away I start knowing what's in front. If this finger is in front of the nose, it's going to be shading the nose. If this one is over here, and I'm going to start shading the nose. Now I know that that nose is back behind those edges that I just created. And I can come over and create some general shapes, but I can look at this and I can say, okay, a little bit above the nose is this division in the finger. Later on, I can come up with almost an identical opportunity to show the spacing in there. But see, I don't know how far up to go. What should I do? Well, I can come up here and just imagine an angle. If you can't imagine it, then create it. And you can come up here. This is very similar. This is just a simpler version of the straight edge and divider method. But now I can come from this and go up here and create that angle. So if I have this angle right and this angle right, oh, look at that. This is just about where that other finger is going to be. Now I have what we call proportion. And it is in direct proportion to this one because we utilized an angle. And we came out here, we tell how long it is. Now we could also tell how long it is after a while by saying, okay, how long is this finger? So we take a measurement on what we want to know approximately, and we see if it compares to anything. Pretty close, so I could come up here and I could come down here and I could say, okay, oh, look at how close we are. Do you know why I'm so close? It's because I used an angle, and that angle is true. And it came out there. We already knew we had something very similar to this. I can put a little character in here too. You can see there's a little bulge here. Nothing is ever exactly straight. This one is coming out here a little bit, and we're allowing for a knuckle. And we could even decide temporarily where the ring is going to be. And here's the stone out here. But look at these nails. If I just put this nail on here like so, it wouldn't show the fact that this is turning around the face. She's holding onto her face. So I really have to pay attention and realize that this nail is going to be at a different angle. And because of the way it's turned, look at that. We have a little sliver of the finger over here, and we have an opportunity to see this going back up again. And now at least we have an opportunity to show perspective, the turning. This one's more straight on, but it's still not right down the center, and we want to make sure that we're paying attention to those kinds of things, because those are some of the tricks on hands that often help it become something other than what we want. Now, this over here, just let me show you a couple things here. Like I said, I can't show everything in here, but this is one of the things that really makes a difference on drawing hands. When I have my hands like this, there is a space in between because I can see through to the paper. If I have my hands together, then I often will have something very much like this. Even though I really want to pay attention, I see this finger is a little bit in front of this one. Just takes a little bit of a bite out of this finger. And the way I know that it is not going to be something like this, this does not tell the story, and because they're just lines. And often what happens with fingers is we don't understand why one is so much thinner than another one, because we don't end up by dedicating a line. But here, let's go ahead and do this. So it isn't a space all the way through. Isn't probably the best example, but I want to be able to create an edge to value. It just solves all kinds of problems. So this one is probably being shingled by the next one. Now, as soon as I dedicate these, though, it is different than trying to illustrate it with just a line, because this is showing that one is in front of another. It's just like this. If I go this way, and I tried to illustrate these with lines on my hand, then we would have some very abnormally shaped fingers. And we also want to pay attention anytime we have a curve. we want to make sure that we have a bend and put it in the right place. So if I wanted to know where the right place is, I could come right down here and I could make sure that I'm documenting a couple of the expansion lines for our knuckles in comparison to something else if I know how long this finger is. But anyway, we want to make sure that we're on our fingers. When we are going around an object, like she is the face, you gradually start seeing that this finger is in front of that one. So we have a clean edge to value, and we shade it this way. This one over here has a clean edge, and we're shading it that way, ever so slightly. But this helps us to be able to know what's in front of what and explain the fact that we see very little of a finger. Now, I'm doing that freehand, just scribbling something out very quick. It doesn't always turn out exactly right, but you can go ahead and have something like this and find angles. If you can figure out, where this V is on the finger, you can come over here and slide it into place. And even though it's a different size, photograph or whatever, you can still utilize it to create your angle. And this on here, I've already found out that I had this quite a bit wider than what it should be. And I can do the same thing on the other one, as long as I know where I decided to create my size and shape. But I can create any one of these angles. And I can either do this and put it on, as long as I have this in the same orientation as my paper, that means parallel. I could put this on here, and I could have another one where I have it on the finger, and I can go ahead and say, okay, are those two? No, it's a little bit different. So I'm a little bit off. So this gives me an opportunity to have a basis for comparison. And or I can go ahead and take this down here, even though it might be a different size, and run this up on that finger, put this on this photograph, and come over here until it lines up with that finger. And now I have that opportunity as well to show my angle. A little bit more of a wedge, I think, to that than I thought. This probably comes over a little bit more like so. Anyway, I think you can probably see that there are all kinds of shapes. That's what I want to have people notice too, is the shape. And where is this coming over here towards this eye? It's right above here. Well, I should have had that like that. But now I have an idea, because I have a general idea about the angle. Now I have an idea where that forehead is. And I can just keep bringing in comparisons. Look at this over here, this hair that's coming over the finger there. And maybe coming up with just a few things. Hair doesn't always have to be exactly the same, but this is already starting to help me have an idea of building one shape on another one, another angle, another shape, and suddenly I have everything proportionately pretty well to what I started out with, which was my diamond shape, and this can be the catalyst. Now, if I was going to lay this out, I think it always helps to be able to have to pick out something that is going to be a major angle. The more things that I can use that are going to give me a reference, like how long are the fingers, and or where is the middle of this here. Now I have a chance to have an opportunity to say, okay, from this to here, it's a little bit wider here than it is on this side. And if I do that on my drawing as well, it's kind of like a grid. I can go ahead and compare shapes, where the line intersects another line, and come up with a pretty good idea about perspective. I'm trying to shortcut this thing and make it very easy for you to just pick up an idea and realize that we always have angles, and we have the opportunity to decide the shape, the size, and see how other things relate to different places on what we do draw. I hope that this will help a little bit, just to give you a little bit of an answer to the question. So anyway, Jeremy, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you, Darrel. A lot of questions answered there, and we're not going to stop there either. We have a couple more parts in this series on drawing hands, and I got to say, you're not going to want to miss part 2, because Darrel's going to go into more depth about drawing the contour and the skin texture that give us the depth and dimension that we're looking for in hands and really make them pop off the page and come to life. So you're not going to want to miss that. We'll be sure to let you know when that video is available through your email, and we'll put them up on our Facebook and other social media, YouTube. And hey, as always, feel free to leave us a comment below this video. Let us know what you learned, what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you'd still like to learn, and we'll do our best to get back to those questions as quick as possible. So, Darrel, again, thank you, and thank you all for being here. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.